This vision was shared with us by a humble sister who the Lord showed what is to come. It is a warning about things that are unfolding and more that are still ahead. She felt led to share this vision so that people may turn back to God before it's too late. If you want to hear more prophetic visions and near-death experiences like this, kindly subscribe to the channel and stay connected with us. Now here is her testimony. My name is Comfort. Today I feel a deep need to share this vision that the Lord showed me. For some time I kept it to myself, wrestling with doubt and uncertainty. Honestly, I was not sure if I should say anything. The weight of what I had seen pressed heavily upon my heart, and I questioned whether I was worthy to carry such a message. This vision was given to me before the recent plane crash in India. At first, I didn't speak about it, but now, after seeing what has happened, I can no longer remain silent. The confirmation through current events has made it clear that I cannot keep this to myself any longer. I believe the Lord is pressing it upon my heart to share what He showed me, so that those who hear may turn to Him with urgency and sincerity. It all began one evening after work. That day was particularly long and tiring, filled with the usual demands and stresses of daily life. My body was weak and my spirit felt drained from the challenges I had faced. I came home feeling exhausted, ate a little to sustain myself, and laid on my bed with a heart heavy from the burdens of the day. As I closed my eyes, seeking rest and peace, I quickly fell into a deep sleep. It was during this sleep that the Lord visited me in a way I had never experienced before. While I was sleeping, suddenly I felt a presence in the room. It was not an ordinary feeling, but something that penetrated deep into my spirit. The atmosphere around me changed completely, becoming charged with a holy presence that I could sense even in my sleep. When I opened my eyes in the vision, I saw an angel standing near me. The angel was very calm, gentle and friendly, radiating a peace that immediately settled my heart. I was not afraid at all, despite never having encountered such a being before. His face carried an indescribable peace, and his presence filled the whole room with a light that I cannot fully explain. It was not like any earthly light I had ever seen. It seemed to come from within him, pure and warm, casting no shadows, but illuminating everything with perfect clarity. The angel did not speak any words at first, but his eyes looked at me with such kindness and compassion, as though assuring me that I was completely safe in his presence. There was an understanding that passed between us that transcended the need for words. His very countenance spoke of divine love and protection, and I felt a peace that surpassed all understanding wash over my entire being. Then the angel stretched out his hand toward me with gentle authority. Without speaking, I understood that he was inviting me to follow him on a journey that would reveal important truths. The invitation was not forceful, but filled with divine purpose. I took his hand without hesitation, and in an instant, we were no longer in my room. The transition was seamless, as though we had been lifted by an invisible force beyond the constraints of physical reality. We were standing on top of a high mountain that seemed to touch the very heavens. The view from the mountain was wide and clear, offering a perspective that no earthly vantage point could provide. I could see far into the distance, as though the whole world was laid before me like a vast tapestry. The air was still and pure, and everything was silent except for the gentle whisper of wind that seemed to carry divine whispers. But as I looked carefully, adjusting to this supernatural perspective, I began to notice something that caught my attention and would soon break my heart. Below us, spread across what seemed like an endless plain, I saw different camps spread out across the land. Each camp was distinct and separate from the others, marked by clear boundaries that divided them. Each camp had a large flag standing tall at its center, waving proudly in the spiritual breeze. The flags were of different, nations representing the peoples of the earth. I recognized some of them immediately, with startling clarity. I saw the flag of the United States, bold and prominent, the flag of China with its distinctive red and stars, the flag of Russia with its strong colors, and also the flag of India with its sacred wheel and stripes. People were gathered in each of these camps, standing together according to their nations in perfect order. No one was mixed or out of place. Everyone stood where their national flag was raised, as though invisible forces had organized them according to divine purpose. As I looked at the camps with growing curiosity and concern, I saw that each of them had different scenes taking place, each reflecting the spiritual condition of that nation. In the camp of the United States, I saw great celebration that seemed almost excessive. People were dancing with wild abandon, singing loudly with voices that carried across the plain, and laughing with a sound that seemed to mask something deeper. They were enjoying themselves as though everything was perfect, as though no troubles existed in their world. Their celebration seemed intoxicating, a kind of spiritual drunkenness that blinded them to reality. There was a sense of false security, of people living as though tomorrow would never come and consequences would never catch up to their choices. In the camp of China, it was similar but with its own character. There was a lot of music that seemed forced and mechanical, shouting that felt more like commands than joy, and celebration that appeared orchestrated rather than genuine. People were busy with entertainment and various activities, completely unaware of anything else happening around them. They moved like people in a trance, focused entirely on immediate pleasures and material pursuits, while remaining blind to spiritual realities. The atmosphere was one of distraction and spiritual numbness, where deeper questions about meaning and eternity were drowned out by constant noise and activity. But when I turned my eyes to the camp of India, what I saw broke my heart completely. There was no music, no dancing, and no celebration. Instead, there was great weeping that rose like a mournful song toward heaven. The people there were crying deeply, with tears that seemed to come from the very depths of their souls. Families were gathered together in profound sorrow, clinging to each other as their only source of comfort. I saw parents holding their children tightly, weeping as if they had lost everything precious to them. The children were crying loudly, their innocent voices adding to the chorus of grief that filled the air. The elderly sat in stunned silence, their faces etched with lines of worry and despair. The pain in that camp was so heavy that it seemed to create its own atmosphere, thick with sorrow and mourning. I could feel the sadness even from where I stood high on the mountain, and it penetrated my heart like arrows of compassion. The contrast between the camps was stark and deeply troubling. While some nations celebrated in ignorant bliss, India was drowning in tears and anguish. The inequality of suffering was overwhelming to witness, and questions flooded my mind about justice, mercy, and the ways of God. Seeing this heartbreaking scene, I turned to the angel with desperation in my voice. I was troubled and confused by what seemed like an unfair distribution of joy and sorrow. I asked him why there was so much pain in the camp of India while others were rejoicing without a care in the world. The question came from deep within my spirit, a cry for understanding in the face of apparent injustice. The angel looked at me with eyes full of divine wisdom and gently began to reveal what was happening, speaking truths that would forever change my understanding of spiritual warfare and divine justice. The angel told me with solemn authority that the enemy has marked India for great sorrow. His voice carried the weight of heavenly knowledge as he explained that the devil has set specific plans in motion to bring deep pain and disturbance to the land. These were not random events or natural occurrences, but calculated attacks from the realm of darkness. The angel said that unless the people turn back to God with genuine repentance and wholehearted devotion, many painful things will happen in rapid succession. He revealed to me that the enemy desires to cover India with tears, to bring prolonged agony to families, and to break the hearts of many until hope itself seems lost. The angel showed me that the devil is determined to bring chaos, devastating loss, and systematic destruction upon the land, targeting the very foundation of faith and family that has long characterized Indian culture. As he spoke these weighty words, my heart grew heavier with each revelation. The spiritual reality behind physical events became clear, and I understood that what happens in our world is often the result of battles fought in heavenly places. I saw more visions of what was coming, and each scene was more heartbreaking than the last. I saw families in deep mourning, gathering around empty chairs that once held loved ones. I witnessed fathers having to bury their own children, their strong hands shaking as they performed the most unnatural of acts. I observed mothers crying for their lost loved ones with a grief so profound that words could not contain it. Their voices calling out names that would never again respond. I saw many people falling into hopelessness so deep that they questioned the very existence of God and the meaning of life itself. The children's cries were especially painful to hear, piercing through the vision like daggers to my soul. Their innocent suffering seemed to represent the purest form of injustice, and their tears fell like rain upon ground already soaked with sorrow. I saw crowds of people weeping as though they had been struck by something too heavy for human strength to carry, their backs bent under burdens that seemed impossible to bear. The collective grief created an atmosphere so thick that it was difficult to breathe, even in the vision. Above the camp of India, I saw a dark, thick cloud hanging over them like a supernatural storm system. It was not like the clear skies I saw above the mountain where we stood, nor like the partly cloudy but manageable skies over other camps. This cloud was heavy and full of oppressive darkness that seemed to swallow light itself. It spread wide across the entire camp, casting a deep shadow over all the people below and blocking out the sun's rays. The angel revealed to me that this cloud was the covering of the enemy, a spiritual canopy of pain, sorrow, and suffering that had been deliberately positioned over the nation. The enemy was working with diligent persistence to bring India under this dark cloud and keep it there until the people were broken beyond repair. The angel showed me how the devil would bring pain in many forms, like a multi-pronged attack designed to overwhelm and destroy. He revealed strategies that included disasters both natural and man-made, accidents that would seem random but were spiritually orchestrated, sicknesses that would spread rapidly and resist treatment, and other troubles that would strike the people without warning and without mercy. As I watched in horror, I saw images of people losing their homes to floods and fires, their life's work disappearing in moments. I saw hospitals overflowing with the sick and injured, medical staff overwhelmed, and resources stretched beyond capacity. I witnessed many standing by gravesides, saying goodbye to loved ones far too soon, the ground itself seeming to cry out under the weight of so many burials. The sorrow was so deep and pervasive that I could not hold back my own tears. They flowed freely down my cheeks as I witnessed suffering on a scale that human hearts were never meant to endure. The vision was not just visual, but emotional and spiritual, allowing me to feel a portion of the pain that would be experienced by millions of people. The weight of collective grief pressed upon my chest until I could barely breathe. The angel made it clear to me that this was not the desire of God, whose heart breaks for every tear shed by his children, but rather the work of the enemy taking advantage of hearts that have turned away from God through neglect, rebellion, or simple spiritual apathy. The angel said with divine authority that the only hope for the land is for the people to humble themselves completely and turn back to the Lord with genuine repentance. Only when the hearts of the people return to God in truth and sincerity will the hand of the enemy be pushed back and his plans thwarted. Prayer, fasting, and genuine spiritual revival were presented as the only weapons powerful enough to change the spiritual atmosphere over the nation. As I stood there taking in the full impact of what I had seen, I felt completely overwhelmed. The vision was so heavy that I could hardly stand under its weight. My legs felt weak and my spirit crushed by the magnitude of suffering I had witnessed. My heart ached for the people of India with a love I had never experienced before, as though God had given me a portion of his own heart for that nation. I saw innocent children crying with voices that would haunt my memory, mothers trying desperately to comfort them, but having no strength themselves after losing their own hope. I saw men sitting silently, once strong and proud, now hopeless and broken by circumstances beyond their control. There were many who had lost all they had worked for, their dreams shattered and their futures uncertain. The pain was too much for any human heart to bear alone. Then, as suddenly as the vision had started, I woke up. I was lying in my own bed, but my heart was still heavy with the burden of what I had seen. Tears were rolling down my cheeks, and I realized I had been crying in my sleep. The images I saw would not leave my mind, playing over and over like a movie I could not turn off. I sat on my bed for a long time, trying to process and understand why the Lord had chosen to show me such a vision. I prayed earnestly and asked the Lord for understanding, for wisdom to know what to do with what I had seen. But for many days, I told no one. I felt unworthy to carry such a weighty message, questioning whether I was the right person for such a responsibility. I didn't know if anyone would believe me, or if sharing such dark visions would only cause unnecessary fear and panic. But then, not long after this vision, I heard the news about the plane crash in India. As I saw the news coverage and watched the sorrow of the people affected, my heart broke even more deeply. It was like witnessing a small piece of the vision beginning to unfold in reality. The tears of the families, the shock on faces, the questions about why such things happen, it all matched what I had seen in the spiritual realm. That is when I knew beyond doubt that I could not remain silent any longer. I understood that the Lord had shown me these things not for me to hide them in fear, but to warn, to call people to urgent prayer, and to speak boldly of the need for immediate repentance. I do not share this vision to bring fear or to cause despair, but to call for fervent prayer and genuine spiritual awakening. The Lord is calling India back to himself with the same heart of a loving father, calling wayward children home. There is great danger ahead if hearts do not return to God quickly and completely. But there is also tremendous hope if the people turn back to him with genuine hearts. He is full of mercy and compassion, and he can stop the plans of the enemy completely. His power is greater than any darkness, his love stronger than any hatred, and his mercy more abundant than any judgment. My prayer is that this message will reach the hearts of those who hear it, and that many will turn to the Lord before greater troubles come upon the land. May it spark a movement of prayer that spreads across the nation and beyond. May it awaken sleeping churches and stir complacent hearts to action. May it bring about the kind of spiritual revival that changes not just individual lives but entire communities, and ultimately the spiritual atmosphere over the nation itself. May God have mercy on us all.